everyone, it's Celtic Crow. I'm here today because I was tagged through Facebook in the 16 Witchy Questions Tag. So I figured that would be a good beginner video, give you a little bit more information about myself. So we're gonna try to do that. Try being the operative word, but we're gonna try. Okay. So why not get started? Number one, do you have a witchy name and how did you come upon it? Well, my channel is named Celtic Crow. I'm still sitting on it as using it as an actual witchy name. I really do like it. I'm just not necessarily one for nicknames. I didn't have a great experience with them growing up, so I'm not one to really use them too often. But I do like this name. It sticks pretty well. I got it because, I was actually talking to two witchy friends, and one of them started talking about Celtic names. She started spouting off, but throughout the entire process, the Celtic part really stuck with me. And then I was talking to another witchy friend on a completely different day, and we were talking about YouTube, and she mentioned a couple of different things, and I mentioned that my other witchy friend had said Celtic, and that had stuck with me, and then she kind of just said Celtic Crow, and it kind of stuck. So there's that. I guess it stuck. It works out for me, so I'm going to keep with that for right now. Number two, where are you located and what brought you to there, or were you born here? I am, like I said in my intro video, I am in Georgia, outside of Atlanta. I was born in New Jersey, raised in North Carolina, went to school in different parts of Georgia for college, and after going home for a year or two to help with some family stuff, I ended up coming back to Georgia for some work issues, and it's crazy. I'm not a big fan of the traffic or the heat. Like I said, both of them are gross. If anyone lives anywhere near Atlanta, it's horrible. If you live in LA or know of LA's traffic, times that by about 5 and you'll get Atlanta traffic. So yeah, it's not fun, but it's where I am, and I'm making the best of it, enjoying it while I can. Number 3, do you wear special amulet jewelry during spell work? Not during spell work. I just haven't found anything necessarily that clicks for that purpose. I do have 2 pieces of jewelry I do wear. One I wear on a daily basis. It's my little pentagram right here. I got that. It was the first piece of jewelry I got. I believe I was my junior year of high school. No, my senior year of high school. It was my senior year of high school because I drove to the mall by myself and got it. I saved up my allowance for it, and I went and bought it. It was right at the beginning of my senior year. I got it at Spencer's for like $24, and it's not tarnished at all. It's in great condition, so I'm happy with that. I have my second piece of jewelry right here. I like it, and I wore it for a long time. It's because this one went missing for about 4 years, and I wasn't able to find it. So during that time, I wore this one, and I really like it, but not as much as this one. This one, when I found it, I ended up crying. I missed it so much. So, but this one, let me see if you can get it in there. It has the moon symbols on it. It has different phases. It's pretty awesome. I like it. It just doesn't click with me as much as this one does, but I still love it. It's still mine. So, number 4, favorite magical place or favorite place to do magic. I live in an apartment complex, so there's not that many places I can go to do magic. I like to sit in front of my altar, which is right here. But I would say one of my favorite places, and I haven't been back since I've started practicing. I used to go with my family all the time, is the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, Tennessee, and the northern tip of Georgia. My family and I used to go to Tennessee all the time, and I just love the mountains up there. I remember after my dad passed away several years ago, I went up there for a Catholic school retreat, believe it or not, and we went hiking up a stone-faced mountain, and we had lunch on top of it. And I remember sitting on top of the mountains and thinking about how gorgeous it was and how beautiful it was. And that's when a hawk, which was one of my dad's favorite birds, came down and actually sat and had lunch with me on the top of the mountain, maybe like 2 feet from me. Just sat there and watched me eat my lunch. And I was just like, I don't think you want peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Mr. Hawk. But he just sat there, and after a few minutes, he flew away. So that was really magical for me. But believe it or not, one of my favorite places right now to be and to meditate is actually at work. I work in an office building. Anybody who's been to Atlanta knows that it's hilly, but it's not mountainous by any means. But my office is on top of a hill. It's one of the highest points in the town that it's in. And the owner has turned it into an office campus. And so there's a bunch of outdoor things. There's a walking path. There's like a little place to go eat lunch. They have tennis courts and basketball courts and crazy amounts of stuff that you really don't need to work in an office. But when I go outside, because it's on the topmost spot of the area and there's a bunch of trees around it, we have hawks and crows all of the time flying through there, and it's really awesome to see. The other day I actually saw a pack of migrating hawks, and I think there was, in the course of about 10 minutes, there was about 17 of them that flew through, and it was beautiful to see. I just have a thing for birds. I really like them. So that was really great for me to see. Favorite magical... Oh, sorry. Number 5, favorite stone or crystal for magical workings. I like amethyst. Sometimes ametrine. Those are my 2 favorites. I don't necessarily have one for magical workings, but I do have a power stone. And it's the biggest piece of amethyst I have, which still isn't that big, but I'm still building up my collection. It's this one right here. I'm horrible at this, sorry. But, it's really pretty. It's got the dark point at the top, and it gets lighter at the bottom. And I got it, anybody who knows downtown Atlanta, I got it in a little place in Little Five Points, and that's one of my favorite places to go in Atlanta. It's a crazy kooky area. There's a place called The Vortex, and its opening is a giant skull, and it's a burger joint, and it has a bunch of pinups on the wall. It's pretty awesome. On to the next question. Okay, question number 6. How long have you been practicing, and how did you come on this path? Well, that is a very, very odd question for me. But I've been studying since about sophomore, junior year of high school. Like I said in my intro video, I was born and raised Catholic. I got confirmed, I believe, when I was in 8th grade or freshman year of high school. I spent a year or two just kind of sitting there thinking, this is just not for me. It's just not. I tried really hard for the longest time to follow in with the Catholic belief system. My dad was very involved in the church. He passed away when I was in 8th grade, and I got into a point where I was mad at the Catholic God for taking my father away when he did. It was a very sudden situation, and so after that happened, I kind of went into overdrive of thinking, well, maybe it was because I did something wrong, and I went into overdrive, and I tried to live out my dad's path for him, if that makes sense. I started trying to go to church every day. I went to youth group every day. I prayed extra hard in school, and it just didn't stick. So about end of freshman year of high school, I started realizing that's just not going to work for me. Sophomore year of high school, I kind of spent the time kind of floating, if that makes sense, just not knowing really what to do. Junior year, I got my first witchy book, which was Scott Cunningham's Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner. And I read on that, and I loved it. And then I kind of secretly studied it. Not that my mom really minded so much, but she just didn't want me to get in trouble for it since I was still in a very Catholic, Christian, Baptist area. I went to a Catholic school that was known for asking people to leave if they didn't necessarily follow what they saw was right. So she just didn't want me to cause any trouble. But she honestly didn't mind too much, especially since she was the first one who actually got me started on it, and that I will discuss in a minute. But I didn't start practicing until after college, just because my senior year I was studying, and then all through college I was honestly too busy. I had so much homework. Our school that I went to is known for not having its students sleep because of all the homework that they get. And it was an art school, so you had not papers to do, but projects to do, which would take weeks at a time, and it was atrocious. So after I graduated college, because I was still reading the entirety of college, but after I graduated and moved back home, I started meditating, started doing verbal things to kind of connect with the goddess. And then once I moved out of my mom's house and could actually start setting stuff up, I started up with my altar and just started working. And so there's that. And how did I come upon this path? So my mom went to a Catholic school too. She went to a Catholic school in the 60s, 70s. One of the ones with the nuns with the rulers. Yeah. And she was a rebel child, and they had a book report that they had to do. Well, she decided, let's freak out the nuns and do a book report on witchcraft. Sounds normal, right? So she got this really old book about witchcraft, and by old I mean some of it's in Latin, and it talks about the spells that they believed were happening during the burning times, both dark and light. There was a mention of a hand of glory in there. It gets kind of weird. So I wish I had the book with me, but I left it in North Carolina. I was one of those kids that would go rooting around in my parents' bookshelves. I loved to read as a kid. By the time I was 4, I was trying to read Stephen King. So it wasn't odd for me to go into my mom's bookshelf. And of course, I see the book of witchcraft there, and I'm like, ooh, magic, let's read. And so I started reading. This was maybe when I was like 6 or 7. I found this book, and whenever I'd go downstairs, which is where the book was, I'd read more of it. I found it intriguing. After I got over the scared part of being scared of ghosts, I found paranormal stuff intriguing. Harry Potter came out, I found even more of it intriguing. And when I started choosing my own religious path instead of living my father's religious path, I just kept going back to those memories of finding that kind of stuff really interesting. And that's kind of how it started. The breaking point was some comments that my religion teacher said, which I know for a lot of Catholics are not true. But the way she phrased it and the adamant authority, I don't know what that was. Okay. The adamant authority that she spoke it with really bothered me. So, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I believe it was actually that week I got the, Scott Cunningham book and started reading. So moving on. Number 7. Do you have a god, goddess, or deity, and how did you connect with them? I consider myself a daughter of the Morrigan. I know she's with me. I think she's honestly just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for me to kind of prove to myself that I can handle certain situations before fully stepping in, but I know she's there. I've always had a connection with horses, farm animals, crows, birds of prey in general. I've always thought the aspects of death goddesses to be interesting. as a matter of fact, while I was kind of sorting out my answers for these questions, I made a connection I had never made before, which was really awesome. When I was a kid, I can remember having this dream since I was 4 or 5 years old. I would have a dream that I was under a hill in, like, tunnels. It was really scary as a kid because, I don't know, it was just terrifying. But I would be winding my way through these tunnels, and I don't know how I knew this, but I knew that outside was really green and lush and everything, but underneath where I was, it was very dirt, rocks, torches lighting up the tunnels, everything like that. And I would be walking, and I'd hear drumming in the background, and I'd keep walking and keep walking, and I was looking for somebody. I knew that there was what I considered a witch to be in here somewhere. And every time I'd get towards the end of the dream, I'd finally have found the room that she was in, and I'd be about to turn the corner. I'd be able to see the firelight on the walls, and then in the firelight, I'd be able to see cauldron and an elderly witch. And the only reason why I knew she was elderly is because her shadow was kind of hunched over, and I just knew she was an elderly woman. And every time I'd either turn the corner, either right about to see the back of her body, or I'd see the back of her body and she'd be about to turn around, is when I woke up. And that happened about once or twice a year until I was 7 or 8, 9 maybe. I know the last time I had it was before I was 10. I've maybe had flashbacks since then, but I haven't seen the entire dream all over again, but it's always stuck with me. And then the week that my father died, we were going to his funeral, and this woman, like, everyone would be like, take comfort, God has a plan, God this, God that, and I was trying so hard to work with this deity that they were talking about, but every time I would see who I thought was Mother Mary. But she didn't have brown hair like I was used to. She had black hair, and she wasn't tan like I normally imagined her. She was very pale, and she just gave off a feeling of darkness, but not like evil darkness, just like, it's hard to explain. But just not like the warmth, the motherly love, the motherly affection, the very, very nurturing. She was still very nurturing, but it wasn't like the overly nurturing characteristics I would put with Mary. But she was always there comforting me. She kind of stood silently next to me, but, you know, when I would start breaking down, she would hug me, and she'd be like, it's okay, things will get better. And so I now look back and realize that was her. And so there's that connection as well. And since then, I've always been connected to dark goddesses, things like that, and she keeps popping up. I've heard of her name for my entire life through different things, but she just keeps popping up, and I know it's her, if that makes any sense. Number 8, favorite incense or smudge. Favorite smudge is Palo Santo. I like sage. I don't have an issue with it, but I like to have it going for a while, and it can get kind of smoky and kind of thick. So I prefer Palo Santo. As far as incenses go, I like I don't know where the other one went. Oh well. I like the Precious Lavender from Hem. Also the Goddess from Hem. The Goddess is my favorite, followed by Precious Lavender, but unfortunately I'm out of the Goddess. So I have to go find more. Number 9. Have you ever had to clear a space of a negative entity? Yes, my apartment. It was about maybe a month or two ago. I had my altar in the other room back there. I just recently moved it. I feel like that was maybe kind of a sign to move it to. I had a bunch of the glass candles like these on there. I was doing some, not necessarily some spell work, but just some lasting candle work for different things, financial stability, stuff like that. And I had been really anxious. I have a lot of anxiety issues, and my anxiety had gotten the best of me, and I had been having a lot of breakdowns recently. I had been a lot angrier recently, and I had a bunch of them, including a white one that I was using as like a power candle, because at that point I didn't have any black candles, which is what I prefer to use for goddess candles and stuff like that. And so, excuse me, my eye is really itchy. I had a bunch of those sitting on the table, along with, trying to get it without burning my fingers off, along with a candle holder like this, and it had a candle in it, not that one, obviously, and we were about to go to bed, and my boyfriend and I went to go to bed. Our cats were in the room with us, so it wasn't them, and all of a sudden I heard a noise, and we both kind of looked at each other and were like, what was that? And we looked in the hallway, the doors were all locked, and he went into the living room, turned on the light, and all of the candles on my altar were knocked over. And I don't mean like maybe one of the cats batted them and they all played dominoes. I'm talking about like things had rolled where they didn't make sense. And I actually have pictures of them just because it was so weird. And the minute, because he went in there without me, I just figured the cats must have knocked something over. And the minute he said, "Sweetie, your altar candles fell," my stomach dropped. I had the most gut-wrenching feeling ever. And so I was just like, okay. Well, I got up and I went to go take a look. And like I said, things were where it would have been physically impossible for them to be. Candles where I have a little soapstone pentagram that I that I use for charging things. Candles that weren't on them were on top of the pentagram. When I went over there, there was no way that they would have jumped up and landed straight on the pentagram. Things were on the floor, but past other things on the floor where they couldn't have just rolled to where they were. And I don't know why I still have it. I really don't. I hid it somewhere so the cats wouldn't get it because I didn't want to put it in the trash because they have a tendency to go through the trash at night. And because it was broken glass, I didn't want to put it in the trash and have them get to it. So I still have one of the candles that actually fell. This one just knocked another candle but completely split. Like you can see, it's pretty gnarly looking. I'm gonna have to throw that away later. But yeah, it wasn't fun, and I knew I just had a gut feeling that it wasn't something that was supposed to be here. And I had to go through and clean that up. So that wasn't fun. Number 10, I'm going to have to speed this up. It's already at 23 minutes. Let's go. Favorite witchy show or movie? Favorite movie? Practical Magic, the obvious kind of choice. Also Harry Potter. I know it's not like necessarily like witchy magic. It's more of like the fake kind of floating stairwells and stuff. But it's my favorite. I'm a big Harry Potter head. I still haven't seen Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and it's bothering me really bad. My favorite show is, this isn't really necessarily a witchy show, and it doesn't put witches necessarily in the best light, but I love it. It's supernatural. I love me some Sam and Dean. I just love the fact that they do a lot of research into the show. Like, they really, truly research the show, and they might not use every single proper usage for everything, but they actually put some thought into it. And it's not just like flick of the wrist and everything disappears. No, they actually put some research into it, and it's fun. Second would be American Horror Story Coven. Again, doesn't necessarily put witches in the best light, but I love it, and it's just weird, and I really like it. What do you do to help raise energy before spell work? Music, Celtic usually, drumming, It helps get me out of my shell. I really have a lot of energy. Like right now I want to get up and dance, but nobody wants to see that. So I usually do have a lot of energy. So I don't need to necessarily raise too much of it. It's just channeling it in the right area. But that helps me kind of break my shell so I can release it and not necessarily have to worry about like, oh, am I doing the right thing? It helps with that. I'm also really entranced by candles. I like to make sure that there's candles lit on my altar anytime I'm doing anything, because that helps me kind of focus my energy, if that makes sense. Number 12, do you see yourself helping others magically? Yeah. Unfortunately, I have some stuff I have to figure out myself, and one of my favorite sayings is, you can't pour from an empty cup, so I gotta focus on myself first, get myself to a good place, and then help people, but I do help in any way I can already. It's just magically, I need to focus more on myself, honestly. 13, what is your preferred form of divination? Tarot cards. I have several decks, actually. I have like this tiny little set my sister got me years and years ago from Barnes & Noble. Tiny itty bitty set. And then I also have this steampunk tarot. It seems silly. I'm not actually a steampunky person at all, but the imagery really stuck with me for some reason. And it helps me more with intuitive reading. I still go to the book whenever I'm confused, but I'm able to read it more intuitively without having to go to the book. I also have a couple of oracle decks. I really like this deck, the Goddess Guidance Oracle cards. Those are some of my favorite. But tarot deck is my favorite form. I am working on making my own spirit board and pendulum board. And oh no, my pendulum got into a knot. I do already have a pendulum. I want to get an amethyst one too. This one is rose quartz. I got it a couple months ago. But I want to make my own board for that, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Runes is on my list too, but I want to do spirit board and pendulum first. I feel like studying for tarot is kind of where I'm at right now, and I don't want to have to necessarily study for runes quite yet. I don't think my brain can handle it. It's just not going to happen right now. 14, what element do you work with the most? I'm a Gemini. I was born in June. So my element is air, and I really do get revitalized from it a lot. My favorite thing is when I go outside and you can feel the wind, the breeze. Everyone gets mad at me who rides in my car because it will be the dead of winter and I will have the heat on in my car and the windows open. It makes no sense, but heat makes me stuffy. I don't like it. But I need it to stay warm. So I'll crack the windows open even when the heat's on in my car just because I like the flowing of the fresh air. But besides that, I prefer fire the most. I think it's because it makes it easier for me to focus. I like earth and water just the same. I love them both. I love them all, but, wind air is the best thing for revitalizing myself, and fire makes me focus the most. 15, if you threw a party, which YouTube witches would you invite? I speak to a good amount of them on Facebook. Pretty much everyone I subscribe to, the normal ones, Trina, Tequila, Ember, Raven, Crescent Moon, Roller Derby Witch. There's a bunch of them. I'm not going to go through and list all of them. I love each and every one of you guys. You know who you are. I just don't. If I were to list all of them, it'd be another 20 minutes. So I just don't want to do that and keep you guys here even longer. 16. What are your witchy goals for this new year? I made a few personal goals that I'm going to witch my way through, but I'm not necessarily going to talk about them in depth right now. Mostly, I just want to find more strength in my witchy side. I want to open to my power up more, if that makes any sense. And a big one is to get on the career path that I have been dreaming about since I was a kid, or get back on it, shall I say. I think working up my witchy confidence will work up my confidence in general, and then it'll be easier to get that job that I want. And I'm not necessarily going to say it out front, outright, because I'm just not ready for it to be out there yet. But yeah, working towards that and just working towards being more confident and more diligent with my witchy side of things. So that's pretty much it. I'm sorry if you heard any weird scratching noises or meowing noises. My cats are all separated at this point because they're all being fed, and one of them eats very slow. The other two will try to eat her food, and then there'll be a fight, and I'm not getting into that. But yeah, so I hope you guys have a good day. I'll probably be back hopefully in a day or two. It takes a while for these videos to load because I have horrible reception and internet in my apartment. So it takes a while for them to load, but I will see you guys soon. Have a good day. Bye.